Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Commission Breath. Brandon Love here with Tom Moffat. And today we are going to share what we're doing for asks in our business. This is going to transform both things in the mortgage book and the brokerage. I've done this a bunch of times throughout my career, and it was time for us to bring it back into the mix.
I was pretty pumped when you texted me a picture of this like sticky note that said 10 asks, or what was it? 5 asks a day for each business. And then you had your punishment and reward in there, and you fucking signed it too. I'm like, what is going on here? You had like no context. So it had me intrigued. So why don't you explain what you set yourself up with?
Yeah, for sure. If you go back to I think it's episode number 2, we talk about the ask muscle and working on asks. I literally have this thing in my office. It's like, you make your market 25 asks a week, just asking for reviews, asking for leads, all this different stuff. And I realized that I was getting really busy doing things like creating content, brokerage work, all the stuff that was really good work, but it wasn't necessarily feeding the top line of my business. So I'm like, I got to go back to just the basics of doing the asks. I realized that I needed to set some pretty big goals with it. And then as a result of that, add some layers of punishment reward in there. So a carrot and a stick psychology in there helps me to stay disciplined. So that's what I sent you.
Yeah. And to give you, the listener, some context, if you haven't listened to episode 2, it's crazy that it was episode 2 and that we haven't touched on it too much since. An ask can be anything. It can be anything that you're asking someone to generate business, essentially, or to at least start the conversation that can lead to generating some leads. And you can go all the way from we call it soft asks and hard asks, not asks, but asks. It can vary from anything. So to give you an example, a soft one can be to ask someone to join your webinar. I think that's kind of soft.
Yeah, it's pretty soft. A hard ask would be a text I sent, hey, anyone I can get pre-approved right now? Or, hey, we just wrapped up this file. We have no one else in the pipeline. I liked working with you. Let's do some more. Who else is ready to go?
Yeah, you just did those 2 this morning, and I did a layer on that too. Like you mentioned, hey, do you have anyone that can use a second opinion on their pre-approval? We're seeing a lot of rate drops recently, and buyers aren't always communicated that there's been rate drops, something along those lines. And those would be hard ask. You're literally saying, do you have any leads for me?
Yeah, or hard ask is hey, let's have a meeting and chat about how we can work together. Things like that. That's what you want to do. Ask for Google reviews. Ask for people to connect you with someone else in their network. Ask a realtor to introduce you to a realtor who's like-minded with them because you enjoy working with them. Just different things like that. There's so many different ways to ask and things you can ask for. And what we are doing is a 60-day challenge, maybe 61 days, beginning of April to the end of May.
Basically, we've got it for that 60-day window, and we're doing 10 asks a day each. I might be doing it a bit differently than you. Those 10 asks can be a combination of North Shore and Tango, and it doesn't have to necessarily be 5 and 5. You're specifically saying you want to do 5 and 5 of each.
Yeah, so I'm going to do 5 for North Shore, 5 for Tango. It's every day. The incentive here is that if we do it, obviously we're going to have the benefits to our business. There's no doubt about it. My reward is I haven't taken a vacation in a really long time, so I'm going to give myself a $5,000 budget, take my family on vacation. My punishment is that I have to add another 100 million to my not drinking time frame, which honestly, I'm not hating not drinking, but I do want to have some summer bevies, I think. So I'll be adding to that time frame and just pushing out the punishment that I've already put on myself. And Tom, how about you?
Along the same lines on the drinking side of things, my punishment is that I won't be able to drink for 2 months. So the same timeline that I'm doing the asks for, I won't be able to drink. So if I miss any of the asks, then that's my punishment. I can't drink till I believe it would be June 1st?
Well, we stop the end of May. So depending on when you lost, it would be 2 months from there.
Well, that's the thing. See, this is getting me very stressed out. By the way, listener, I'm not a huge drinker, but I do like to have my drinks on the weekend as kind of hey, I worked very hard this week. This is my little reward, right? If I can't have that, I'm going to be very upset. So I know that I'm going to get this shit done because I don't want that to happen. So that's why I made my punishment pretty big. For you listening, you might think oh, that's not a big deal, but for me it is. And my reward is a full sleeve tattoo.
Okay, so Tom's going to get a little bit more badass because he's going to do it. What's the sleeve going to look like? I can see some butterflies, some flowers.
I've had this idea for years. Like I've got tattoos already, but I've wanted a full sleeve for a while. And the business has always been the priority with family. And I just never, like a tattoo isn't like a necessity. It's like something I just want. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. If I do this, I'm going to actually go ahead and get the sleeve. And I don't have a full design done yet, but I'm thinking I'm into stoicism and mindfulness. So having something incorporated around those two would be pretty cool. And I just got to figure out the type of tattoo style that I want to go with.
Cool. I know there's a lot of listeners that have tattoos and stuff like that. So I'm sure they'll have some ideas that they can throw at you. On that note, for people who are listening, like think about what actually incentivizes you. Like for me, I wouldn't get a full sleeve tattoo, but I would take a vacation or I might get a nice watch. I know one person, she's like, I just really want to get a cleaning lady. Set that as your reward. That's cool. Fantastic. You can make your punishment doesn't have to be like not drinking. If you don't drink, you're like, that's stupid. But your punishment can be like, hey, I have to add 5,000 steps a day to the 10,000 I do. That's going to be a lot more work for you, but it has a positive upside. So just kind of like think about what's going to move the needle for you or be a good carrot and a good stick on your side of things.
Yeah, that punishment's got to be something that if it happens, it's going to suck, but not too extreme. You know, it's got to be something that you can actually do, but that will absolutely, you'll hate your life doing. That's kind of my input on it. So when we originally started this, you wrote on your sticky note 5 asks. So I was like, okay, like, fuck, I'm so down for this. But what you meant to say is 5 for each business. So a total of 10 a day. And then when you told me that, my head goes like, dude, I don't know if I could even think of 10 different asks a day. Like I would be tapped out at like 5. Like, I don't know if I could even think of what to ask people. And then that's where it led to us thinking about, I call it the ask bank, where we have all of the different types of asks that we've done or that we've thought of doing. So we put it in there for us to pluck from whenever we're not able to think of anything that day or we're kind of stumped. So that's what we've created. It's a iPhone note, like on the note app, and we're able to collaborate on it. By the end of it, we're going to be giving that to our team so everyone can start using that and really just grow from that and add anything else to it. So I'm excited to see what that document's going to look like at the end of 2 months.
Yeah, so we are doing a training in Tango. So we've been training on this all week. But what we're going to do is like, we're going to share that list. And a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to start my own list. We're going to combine these. And then everyone's going to get this like Ask Bank PDF doc that they can just print out and have on their desk and roll through it. So if that's a resource you find valuable, you have like 2 months to join Tango and you can tap into that.
Yeah. The cool part is I'm thinking of maybe having a section on there where you segregate soft versus hard asks and then you can pick from it that way. I don't know. That might be too much admin on that side, but I think that might be a cool idea. So far, this is day 2 for me. I'm 8 asks for the day. I flew through them in like 40 minutes. And it was a variety of different asks. And my first thought was, this is going to be very tough to do 10 a day. And it's actually been pretty easy so far. Like obviously it's day 2, but I feel like there's so many different asks I haven't even like tapped into yet. Dude, I can do Google reviews for like a week straight if I wanted to with past clients, right? So there's a lot out there. You just have to just bear down and do it.
Yeah, it's just like prospecting. If you don't set the time to do it, a day goes by, you get caught up in a file, you go for a walk, you call your mom, and the day's gone. You're like, I'll prospect tomorrow. It's the same thing with asking. If you don't do it every day, you just stop. It's one of those things that's hard to get back into the good pattern, the good habit of doing it. You'll also find as you're doing it, you notice in your life, you're doing a lot more asking for other things. It ends up enriching your whole life because you'll be like, oh, I'm going to ask for an upgrade at the hotel, or I'm going to ask to sit first class on the plane. Like just different things like that, that you're way more comfortable with it. It stops a lot of those barriers or resistance and discomfort we have in our life around asking for things. You know, and the Bible says, ask and ye shall receive. And it's true 2,000 plus years ago. And it's true now.
Amen, brother. Yeah. So that's a cool kind of outlook on it, is that kind of muscle that you're building. That's what we talked about in episode 2, is build that muscle and it'll seep into other aspects in your life. So I fully agree with that. To give you an example of how powerful this is, we both have had leads already from 2 days in. And technically this is your first day. So yesterday I texted a past client and I knew he just had his second baby, his second kid. And I just reached out. I said, hey, how did things go? Everyone healthy? Everyone good at home? And it just started this conversation. And he's like, hey, you know what? I'm actually going to be wanting to reach out to you and chat about getting pre-approved to purchase coming up later this year. And like, it's far out, but at the same time, it's a lead that's generated that I possibly wouldn't have had. So it works. You have one that's even a bigger lead than I do. Why don't you kind of talk about that one?
A simple text. I was just like, hey, anyone need to get pre-approved? It's been a while.
To a realtor.
To a realtor. She texts back, yeah, call this person, sent their contact info. So it's like, boom, done. That's now booked for next week. All it took was 2 seconds to text. I ended up copying and pasting the text to like 5 other people. And the funny thing is, like, I actually had 2 realtors call me this past week, and they're like, do you mind if we set up a call with you to chat about like some of the outreach and prospecting stuff you do? Because like we are on the receiving end of it and we really like it. We're thinking about like incorporating more into our style of business. I'm like, yeah, 100%, like happy to chat with you on it. But it's just like so trivial to type a text like that and send it. It seems like nothing, but then people are not doing it. They're doing like 40 minutes of creating a video or a bunch of like really advanced webinar stuff. And we do all that shit too. So I'm not knocking that stuff. I'm just saying like, you do that stuff, but then you have to do the really basic things that seem stupid. But I find as we get further evolved in our business, we add all these layers of complexity, but we forget the foundation that the business was actually built on.
Yeah, man. It's got to be the foundation. That's what this is. It's not advanced mortgage strategy stuff. It's not creating content. You do still have to do that, in my opinion, but start here. The easiest and fastest way to get leads. And that's why we did it. We're like, hey, you know what? Things are going well, but our pipe isn't as big as we want it to be. We're not on track for the nice goal that we have set for us. So we're like, how can we get leads in today the fastest and really just pour gas on the fire? And this is the way to do it. We're going to ramp up some more content. That's working well too. This is for another episode, but I had 2 videos that went viral, which was super cool and led to 3 cash damming booked calls. I'm like, holy fuck, like this model actually works. So there's more than just doing this, but I'll probably just keep continuing to do this, to be quite honest. Whether I drop down to 5 a day or if it's like super easy to do 10, I'll just keep doing 10.
See, you don't drop down.
Stay the same, stay the course.
No, you don't stay the same either. The next round, you ramp up. So it's like progressive overload if you're lifting weights. Like you want to get better and better. You intensify the amount of ask you're doing, but you're so much better at it. And then you also intensify the amount of your reward and your punishment. So, you know, you might get your whole fucking body tattooed next time.
I'm never drinking again in my life.
Like you don't have to go like super insane, but I'm saying you just like ratchet it up gradually to the point that you're like, you're literally a machine and you're sitting there and you'll prospect for like 2 hours and you'll probably do like 25 asks in a day, but it'll feel like nothing. Start just like writing down one simple commitment, put it somewhere visible, make sure you do it every day, tell someone so you have accountability. That's a key piece, is to say, if I fucking write this down and I don't tell Tom, I have that ability to lie to myself and cheat with myself, which, you know, human nature, we do that all the time. So having that accountability partner is really important, because Tom's going to check with me. Hey, did you do your asks today? Or how many asks did you do?
I already did this morning.
He texted me this morning at like, I hadn't had my sip of my coffee. I'm like, fuck off, man.
That's fucking annoying. He wants a tattoo.
But it's really good, because then I'm like, yeah, shit, he's already at 4. I'm going to beat him. So it's good to get that competitive nature in your business. And it's also fun.
Yeah. And if you're continuing to ramp it up, even if like, let's just say you're at 25 a day and you're like, oh my God, how can I do 25 a day? Even if the last 10 are, I don't even want to call it like fillers, but even if it's like the softest of soft asks and you're reaching out to a past client and just saying like, how's things? How's the home? How's the family? That is still effective. Like I just talked about the last example of a lead coming in from just doing that. Like you can do that all day. You might not have that many past clients, but you can go back to like all of the leads that you've had this year that kind of just fizzled off for whatever reason. You can just reach out to them and be like, hey, like, do you want to get started on your pre-approval again and ramp it up, you know? So
something is better than nothing in all cases there. Another little tip and trick is, if you really struggle with hard asks, start with some soft ones. Start with some easy things like Tom just said, and then transition into it. Or like if you're doing calls, Start with someone you know who's going to pick up the phone and be friendly. Then work on to the person who's going to be more of an asshole or be a difficult conversation for you. Kind of build into it and just get the first one out of the way. You just kind of get that initial resistance out, and then you're going to be rocking and rolling.
That reminds me, you know why I really like this is because I was really struggling with like doing my daily non-negotiables. I was doing my DMs and I was doing them, but I was like, man, it wasn't like boredom, but it was more so like, how do I know that this medium is effective and this message that I'm saying on DM is effective? The reason why I like this is because you have a variety of different outreaches, you've got different mediums, different messages. So you're bound to have something land and stick versus like when I was doing my DMs, I just swapped it out for this. I was like, hey, I'm going to stop doing my 15 DMs a day. Instead of doing that, I'm going to DM the people that follow me still. Super easy, low hanging fruit. But now I'm replacing it with this. And this is a nice variety. And I think this is going to do much, much better than what I was doing in DMs.
Yeah. And a key piece here is once you find that one that's working, because there's stuff that's going to be timely that's going to hit. So like rates drop, pre-approved buyers might not be getting the best thing. That could be timely right now. Fucking hit a bunch of people with it right now, because next week it might be, oh, tariffs on X industry. If you have any like buyers in that category who are getting nervous, have them reach out, hit on that. If that starts hitting, like you'll start seeing what's getting the immediate feedback loop there, and then just go buck on it until it stops and then switch to something else.
Yeah, great point. Like next week, it could be, hey, I just did a webinar. You weren't able to catch it, but here's the recording. Like, I think this would really apply to you. That's an easy ask right there. And that's timely. So I think it's a great point.
Okay. So key takeaway here is just to set your number of asks and make a reward and punishment that works for you, and just commit to a certain time frame. Find an accountability partner and do it. If you don't have an accountability partner, DM the Commission Breath account and we will be your accountability partners. Big ask for you today because we need to do one.
Okay, I got one. I would love you, the listener, to share this podcast with a friend that maybe hasn't heard this podcast before. That's all. Easy ask.
Done. Thanks, guys. Catch you next week.